According to the UN, the war is one of the biggest humanitarian disasters currently ongoing. Yemen's civil war has raged for more than 7 years. Officially, it is a civil war between Mansour Hadi's government forces and Shia rebels, but in reality, it's a proxy war between Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, the United States, and Iran for control of the Arabian Peninsula. This documentary-style YouTube video delves into the region's history, how it's devolved into war, and the assets at stake. Why is this so important? Why Yemen is killing itself and nobody cares. Let's get into it. This is the current situation in Yemen, a situation where no one is in full control of the country. Yemen has been caught in a vicious war. Over 230,000 people have already died. Millions are displaced, and unfortunately, conflict in Yemen is very similar to a plot worthy of a fictional movie, you could say. But this is the reality of Yemen. According to the UN, Yemen adds that in 2021, for every 9 minutes, a child under the age of 5 dies. In addition, the country has been on the brink of famine for years. More than 16 million men living constantly in need of food and basic necessities. 65% of the nation's population. It's not a good story. According to Human Rights Watch, 400,000 children under 5 out of a total of 2 million risk dying of malnutrition if assistance is not provided. All of this is the product of war. Yemen is considered one of the oldest inhabited places on Earth. It's a good place to live, a nation with multifaceted scenic beauty with canyons, desert oasis, and endless unspoiled coast. It's a trading hub with Africa and India. Its strait is a strategic point for all the trades connecting the Red Sea, therefore the Mediterranean. The cities here, for centuries, have been the checkpoint for access to the strait. Following World War I, the North became an independent kingdom. And for approximately 50 years, Yemen was divided into a more populated north, which has its capital, Sina, and the almost entirely desolated south, with the exception of the key ports under British administration. In 1962, a group of nationalist soldiers, aided by the Egyptian president Nasser, carried out a coup in the North Market, occupying the capital there, and forcing King Mohammed al-Badr to abdicate, resulting in the establishment of the Arab Republic of Yemen. The conflict ended in 1970 when a disastrous Egyptian retreat, and the Yemen royal family was finally forced to surrender and admit the recognition of the Northern Republic in the south. And since the British had already withdrawn in 1977 due to the pressure exerted by the insurrectionist group supported by Nasser's Egypt, the Europeans left control of the new sovereign state to the People's Democratic Republic of South Yemen, a nation with a Marxist-inspired regime, the only one of its kind in the Arabian Peninsula. 2 short battles between the North and the South demonstrated that Yemen politics had not come to terms with its past. In 78, a drastic twist occurred in the North when a colonel of the armed forces, Ali Abdullah Salih of Zaydi Shihid ancestry, rose to power and was destined to remain in power for nearly 30 years. It is in this broken society that in 1990, during the years of the collapse of the Soviet Union, the unification of the 2 states took place under the leadership. However, it was perceived from the beginning by the South for what it was, an unwanted slow takeover control through a manipulation of the electoral system and votes that rewarded the most densely populated regions. There are also those of the North. The Yemens of the South were immediately ousted from the government, from political jobs and from the army, from the redistribution of land and from the energy sector. And despite the fact that about 80% of the oil and gas fields were located in the South, all of this explains why in 1994 there was an attempted coup by Marxist military and politicians there. The coup failed and was unsuccessful. However, the North's persecution further exacerbated the situation in the early 1990s in the northwest region between Ceuta and Sina. Initially, an organization was formed, but it was more of a religious cult founded by the attack cleric Hussein Houthi. Shahid Hussein was intellectually and politically close to Iran, and he had very excellent links with its supreme leader. He also had extremely good connections with other Shiite groups in the Middle East, such as the Lebanese. In 2004, fighting erupted between Salah soldiers and Ansar Allah. The Houthi accused the slayer of great corruption, inability to sustain the republic's multi-party system, and serious treachery towards the people of Yemen. Combine this with the fact that they have opened up relations with the Saudis, who have always been considered foreigners and invaders. It complicated the matters. The Northwest, the territory that's still in the hands of the Houthis, and that for decades, it has undergone the process of Sunniization by the religious majority. In the wake of the alleged Arab Spring, the long reign of Yemen's master father came to an end February 27th. Salah resigned, handing over to his deputy, Mansour Hadi. Hadi tried to reach an agreement with the Houthis, promising to give more political weight in dividing the country into 6 federal regions. The Houthis, however, declared themselves dissatisfied with the proposal and irritated by the government's announced decision to cut subsidies in January 2015. They carried out a coup led by a general calling for Hadi's resignation. In addition to this, the general economic and social crisis of the country was already the poorest in the Arab world. Serious problems such as unemployment and skyrocketing inflation, in a surprising twist, the Houthis came back. Hadi was compelled to quit and go. Power to the interim president of parliament, and eventually, this time, its former president Salah. And the Houthis refused to acknowledge the new administration. This halt transferred power to a revolutionary committee, and from there the North took over the capital Sina. The Emirates took their choice to withdraw from the theater of war in 2019. The Emirates undoubtedly recognized that the war was bad to their own prestige, and they rapidly noticed the problems encountered by the Saudis in the highlands of the north part of Yemen. They quickly learnt their lesson, and their goals diverged from those of the Saudis. Riyadh's goal was to regain its status as a regional power by force and to restore the order that suited Saudi Arabia and Yemen. The Emirates pursued the goal of dominating only a few vital locations, which they accomplished thanks to a tight network of local alliances that allowed them access to ports and coastal areas. The Emirates have implemented a more shrewd long-term vision, Chinese style. To put it another way, they have left the dirty work to the Saudis and have chosen another path to win their own war of sorts, establishing commercial bases and acquiring new positions. Now, after these 7 years, all parties have probably matured in their awareness of the impossibility of a military victory. In fact, recent attempts of the Houthis to advance in natural resources such as gas and oil have been completely blocked by government forces, and the drone attacks against the capital Riyadh, against the city of Jeddah, and against the Aramco. Yemen is far from peace. Characterized by a highly centralized regime that is repressive towards any form of dissent and is creating several incidents such as the raid on the U.S. Embassy in November 2021. Still, approximately 8% of the world's oil is here, so many have interest and are paying attention. In 7 years, the UN has not been able to find the right strategy to put an end to the massacre that occurred March 25th. According to the globalists, the international community has allocated only 30% of what the UN has requested to respond to the emergency of 2022. That equates to an average of only 15 cents per day per individual inhabitant here. It's estimated that more than half of Yemen survives solely on humanitarian aid. Further worsening the situation in Yemen was the crisis in Ukraine, given that about 32% of wheat imports come from Ukraine and Yemen. Policy advisor for humanitarian emergency ethos from Italy comments on the conflict in Yemen, spoke of international shame, adding that what continues to happen in Yemen in the silence of major international decision makers is a disgrace that erodes the very sense of humanity around the globe. Thank you for joining us. Subscribe for more world content.